Kakadosh Boker Or, I wanted to share with everybody a beautiful idea on this week's parasha. And we'll start with as follows. It says we're talking about the different utensils or the clothing of the Kohen Gadol. And it says over there, Safa yeh lefiv saviv maaseh oreg, kefi tachra yeh lo yikareah. I'll read to you the English translation. We're talking about the ephod, the robe. And it says over there like this. It says, its head opening shall be folded over within it. Its opening shall have a border all around of weaver's work. And it shall be like for the opening of a coat of meal. It may not be torn. You're not allowed to tear it. So listen to this. Rabbi Shimshon Mestropoli. Remember that Rabbi Shimshon Mestropoli is the famous one that we learn all the things of the, right on Erev Pesach, right? He's got an entire letter and that everyone learns it, but they say that if you learn that letter, nothing bad will happen the entire year. He was one of the Gadol Mekubalim. So this Rav Shimshon Mestropoli, he comes and he says an incredible remez, an incredible hint. Listen to this. We know, right, that we have Samech Mem and his wife. Samech Mem is the name of whether you call it the Satan or the Yetzer Hara, and his wife. There are 4 letters in Samech Mem. Samech Mem Aleph Lamed, right? Sama, right? And then the right Aleph Lamed. So it's Samech Mem, but we put abbreviated version, Samech Mem. And we call him Samech Mem Rasha or whatever, Samech Mem. It's the Nachash, the Satan, Sarosh Shel Esav. Okay, what's the Bat Zug? Right? Lilith, Lili, but with the, right, with the Tav. So it's with the Tav. So he comes and he says like this. When it says in the Pasuk, Lefiv Saviv Maaseh Oreg, it's the Rashi Tevot of the 4 letters of Samech Mem. Again, for its mouth, Lefiv, the opening, or for its mouth, it's going to be Maaseh Oreg, weaver's work. So that's the Rashi Tevot of Samech Mem. Tachra yiyeh lo yikareah, which is basically that it's going to have the border and it cannot be torn. So that is the Rashi Tevot of the wife of Lili with the Tav at the end. Between both of them, you have, right, between 2 of the chalakim of the Pasuk, you have the word kefi. What does that mean? Because one more time, it says lefiv saviv maaseh oreg. Now there's an extra word in the Pasuk that says kefi. And then you start the last part of the Pasuk. Tachla, that's the tav of Lili with a tav, right? Yeh, that's a yod. Lamed, that's a lamed, because it's Lili, right? And then you have the yod again, but it's lamed, yod, tav. In the middle, though, you have kefi. What does that mean? What does kefi means? Like the mouth, the opening. So what does that mean? He comes and he says like this, Im lo ita et hamila azot. If this word was not dividing between them, we don't know what would have happened. And therefore he comes and he says, what do we need then? It's giving us a hint in what we said in Parashat Kitisa, V'sakoti chapi alecha adovri. Rashi says, V'sakoti chapi, because of the mazikim. This is the remez of the word kefi. Right? Kefi. But now, what's going on? How does that make sense? What exactly? So he comes and he says like this. I'm going to give another remez now, another hint. And it says, Safa yeh lefiv saviv maaseh oreg. In the me'il, in the robe, it says, and then it says, you have to hear when he's coming into the Kodesh. The Gemara says, what is the me'il mechaper? The robe is going to be mechaper for Lashon Hara. How do we know? So it says, Rav Chanina, it's going to come, which is in the kol, in the mouth, in the voice, and it's going to atone for something which is in the voice, which is the bad voice. Right? So therefore, the Me'il is an atonement for Lashon Hara. And therefore, in the parasha of the Me'il, if a person does Safa yeh lefiv saviv, which means that he closes off his mouth, he's going to make a Safa lefiv saviv. He's going to close off his mouth from Lashon Hara. What's he going to be zocheh? V'nishma kolo b'vol hakodesh. So when you come and you pray, everything that you pray will be listened to when you come into the Kodesh. Okay? So now we're going to bring down the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim is actually going to be very ma'arich in this, and he says that when the mouth of a human being is tameh through speaking Lashon Hara, afterwards when he learns Torah and he says Tefillah, there's a lot of mekatregim, which these are like accusations and all these things, and therefore what happens is there's a lot of tumah. So the Torah and Tefillah are stopped, and chas v'shalom, they cannot go up. On every single speech of Lashon Hara, a person loses the value of his Torah and Tefillah, that they cannot go up. And this is hinted over here. The Me'il, which is an atonement for the Lashon Hara, it's written in the Me'il that when a person comes and he makes a safa lefiv, saviv, which means he makes a surrounding border around his mouth, then he's zocheh to v'nishma kolo b'vol HaKodesh with kol Torah and Tefillah. And that's why Chazal, the Chavetz Chaim actually bases this upon a Zohar Kadosh as well. And that's why Chazal say many, many times, Tamani pe kadosh ech yomar davar zeh. I'm astonished of such a holy mouth. How could he say such a thing? A pe kadosh, which is careful, of diburim asurim, lo yachol liot, cannot be that it's going to have a ta'ut bidvar halacha. It's impossible. A mouth which is so holy that it's going to make a mistake, it just doesn't work. It's impossible. And that's why he comes and he says, you have to know, some people, they make yeshuot, they make salvations with their tefillot and their berachot. What is it depending upon? The segula is what the mouth is coming. Shminat dibur, which means the power of our mouth is the most powerful weapon. And the proof is, a person comes and he takes an animal and he says, Harezo olah. This is an olah. This is a burnt offering, right? It could be a 12-year-old boy, right? And he says, it's an olah. A person comes and he says, L'shem Kiddushat Tefillin, and it becomes Tefillin. L'shem Kiddushat Sefer Torah, it's a Sefer Torah. L'shem Kiddushat Askara, the name of Hashem. The koach of the dibur, everything has to do with the mouth. But that's only if a person comes and he watches over his mouth. A person that is watching over Tarat L'shono, every biracha, every tefillah, has power to be nitkayem. All the Torah that he's learning, everything happens. Everything is able to work. But now there's another thing as well. Okay, so the first one is koach hadibur, the power of speech. When a person comes and he has the power of speech, it does incredible amounts. Okay, but there's another way also. Somebody that's noseh be'olim chavero. Noseh be'olim chavero means is that he's going to carry, right, the burden with his friends. He's going to participate in the yoke of his friends. The more a person is going to be noseh be'olim chavero, his tefillot are going to be more mitkablot al chavero. And that's why he says, Kol mitpalel chavero v'hu tzarich le'oto davar ne'ena tchila. If you pray for your friend and you need it, you're going to be answered first. The pashut, the pshat hakatuv is that a person that prays on his friends and he also needs a Yeshua kazot. So that means, for example, somebody needs children. So he's going to pray for children for his friend. So he's going to be answered first. He says, no. But derech drush means Reuven prays for Shimon. And he also needs the same thing. Why does he also need the same thing? Because he feels so bad and he feels with the participation of what's happening with Shimon that he also needs the same thing. He feels that he needs the same salvation. So the more that he feels the same salvation, his tefillah is going to be more accepted, which is an incredible concept. You understand? Because now it's like, wow, this is something that all of a sudden changes the mindset. We thought that if a person needs children, what's the biggest segula? Pray for someone who needs children, and then you get answer first. We're saying no. The drush is that really be'emet, your friend is suffering. When you come and you make that you yourself are also suffering in the same way, what happens is all of a sudden now you need that as well, that he should be saved. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to listen to your tefillah more. On him, not on you, on him. But why? Because the more that you need it, feel that you also need it. So what happens? So therefore you're allowed to actually come, right? And you're going to actually have that tefillah, right, received. So now he comes, and Rav Meir Lieberman, he was always by the Chavetz Chaim. He went to the Rav Nibrisk and he started telling him, I saw the Ruach HaKodesh that was by the Chavetz Chaim, he always had a Ruach HaKodesh. And he went and he said there were stories day in, day out. People come, and even before they even ask him the question and he starts speaking, right? He comes and he gives them the answer. And they're like, Ribono Shulam, the guy didn't even start speaking. So the Brisker Rav said, Ze Ruach HaKodesh? He says, what, you want to say that this is Ruach HaKodesh? He says, that's not Ruach HaKodesh. So now Rav Meir, he wasn't Ival. He says, I'm going to tell you another story then. And then again the Brisker Rav comes and he says, right, Ruach HaKodesh? Right? And he tells him another one and another one. At the end, the Brisker Rav comes and he says, it's not Ruach HaKodesh. He says, you know what it is? In the Zechut that the Chafetz Chaim gave up his entire life for all of Klal Yisrael, meaning he went and he felt so much for all of Klal Yisrael, Me'ashamayim, they come and they put the answers already in his mouth. So he didn't say that it was in the Zechut of the Tzidkut of Chavetz Chaim, that he was such a tzaddik, or the Emunah, or the Amal Torah, or the Zikuy Arabim. You know why? He was Noseh Be'olin Chavero. He gave up his entire life. He gave everything for the Klal Yisrael, which means that the fact that he felt so much in every single Jew, it was something not normal. You remember the story that I told you guys about the person that he had a special, he had a very rare sickness. And that what happened is that he went to the Chavetz Chaim, the doctors, everyone gave up hope. He went to the Chavetz Chaim, and the Chavetz Chaim went and he told him, I'm going to pray for you, but on one condition. You never tell anybody that this ever occurred. You never came to me, nothing ever happened, so on and so forth. So when he said, okay, fine, he went and he was cured. Miraculously, he was cured. What happened is that he went and he got married. And after getting married, right, he didn't mention to his wife that he had some type of a sickness at the beginning. He had to say, fine. All of a sudden, after a few years, the wife's sister got the exact same machala. And there was nothing what to do. And everybody was, so the wife was putting pressure on him. How did you get cured? How did you get cured? How did you get cured? Day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. You know how it is, yeah? So what happens? All of a sudden, he comes and he breaks. Yeah, he wasn't able to, he told his wife. So he told her, he said, listen, I went to the Chavetz Chaim, and this is what happened. What happened? He got the machala back.
Wow.
It came back to him. So he went back to the Chavetz Chaim. And he told the Chavetz Chaim, he says, listen, this was a story, and I know that you told me this, but I apologize. The pressure and this and that, I let go. The Chavetz Chaim, he started crying. And he looked at him and he told him, I'm sorry. He says, but I don't have the strength anymore. He says, the strength? So what does that mean? He said, I fasted for you for 40 days for you to have a refuah shlema. He says, I don't have the strength anymore to do that. You know what it is? The Chafetz Chaim fasted for 40 days for a stranger. He doesn't even know the guy's name. He fasted for him for 40 days in order that he should have a refuah shlema. And it was only because he was too old, he didn't have the strength to do it again. Because if not, he would have done it again. So imagine what it is, the power of the Noseh Be'olim Chavero, how the Chafetz Chaim really be'emet, he felt for every single Jew. For every single Jew, that's how he felt. So that was just the concept. So now he says there's another thing also in the tefillah. Somebody that's loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more that you're going to be loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so too, right, the tefillah is going to be accepted. And that's why we go to tzaddikim. Why do we go to tzaddikim to pray? It's not because they pray better than us. It's because since he's more loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the tefillot are more mitkublot. And we actually have two different proofs to this. We say in Shmona Yeseh, we say in Amidah, right? He says, what is this? What are we asking for? We're asking that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should accept our tefillot. Correct? Our tefillot and our avodah. And the Machazi Shechinato Letzion. So then why are we coming and saying Netzeh Hashem Elokeinu B'Mcha Yisrael? So then if we just want our tefillot to be answered, so just do that. But the answer is first of all, Netzeh Hashem Elokeinu B'Mcha Yisrael. Hashem want us. Because the more that you want us and you want our tefillot, the more that the tefillot are going to be answered. And that's why we come and we say Machazi Shechinato Letzion. Meaning, before even asking that Hashem should put a Shekhinah back, we say, Hashem, love us, want us, yearn for us. Because the more that you yearn for us, the more that our tefillot are going to be answered. And then Mimila, we were going to say, and another pasuk is, Vayosha Hashem, and it says, Vayisha Hashem, right? El Hevel ve'minchato. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned to Hevel and to his mincha. And before it's Vayisha Hashem and the Yeshi turns, what does it say? V'alideze el minchato, meaning only because he says Ve'elkai ve'minchato lo sha'ah, which means Hevel was more love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore his korban was accepted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Cain was not wanted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why it says, El Kai Michato, Lo Sha'ah, he didn't turn to him. So therefore, there's a few different ways of seeing how that we want our tefillot to be answered. Number one, watching over our mouth. Number two, number three, you should be wanted. You should be loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you don't have all these things, right? And if you have all these things, so imagine how quickly the tefillah is going to be accepted, right? And that's why the Chafetz Chaim had all three. And that's why his tefillot were always accepted in everything that he did. Okay? We see also this week's parasha, V'natata el Aaron el hachoshen mishpat urim v'tumim. So you put on the choshen mishpat the urim v'tumim. So that means on the breastplate, on the choshen, right, you had the urim v'tumim. Now, what exactly is the urim v'tumim? So there's machloket, a huge machloket. The Rambam is mashma that the choshen itself was called the urim v'tumim. Right? But we call it the Urim V'Tumim, right? On Al-Shem, that they used to ask it, and therefore the Ruach HaKodesh, which was asked in the Choshen, and therefore it was written in the Beit Sheni, there was a Choshen, but there was no Urim V'Tumim. But according to the Rambam, you have to say that the Pshat is that there was a Choshen, but there wasn't Urim V'Tumim. So what's the explanation? He says there was no Choshen, right? Lo haya b'choshen li'inyan, to ask, meaning it was there, but you couldn't ask it. Meaning they had the breastplate, they had it there, but you couldn't just ask. That's the way that the Rambam learns off. But Rashi and the Ramban learn that the Urim V'Tumim was actually the Shema Meforash, which was the name of Hashem, which was folded inside of the Choshen. Meaning you had the breastplate, and inside you had the Urim V'Tumim. The Rambam was learning Urim V'Tumim is that the Choshen itself is the Urim V'Tumim. And why is it called that? Because you ask from it different questions, and it highlights to give you the answers. But according to Rashi and the Ramban, it was the name of Hashem, folded up, placed inside of the Choshen, and in Beit Sheni, obviously we didn't have that. Okay. The proof, right, the Ramban asks is that in all of the Mishkan and the utensils and Bigdei Kiuna, it's written V'asita V'asita. On the Urim V'Tumim, it doesn't say V'asita. It just says V'natata, you should place it, right? And that's what obviously he was placing, it was the name of Hashem. Another question that he says is in Parashat Vayipekudei, it also says Vayas, Vayas, Vayas. And the Choshen says, Vayiten, you're going to place it. Why doesn't it say that you made it? But rather, again, the Ramban says a Chidush Kadol, right? He comes and he says, it's Muchach from the Pesukim, that it was actually the Shem HaMefurash. It's the name of Hashem. And the name of Hashem, you don't have to make it. The name of Hashem, you come, you put it inside, and that's it. Okay? Fine. So according to this, it actually makes sense why the Urim and Tumim were not in the second Bet HaMikdash. Because the Gemara says, right, in Yomah, towards the end of Yomah, right? It says he comes and he says like this. He says, it's at the end of the first perek of Yoma. Kafalef Amubet. The Gemara there is speaking about the Chamisha Dvarim. There are 5 differences between the first Bet HaMikdash and the second Bet HaMikdash. The second Bet HaMikdash didn't have the Urim Tumim. Now, what was the connection between all those 5 things? The Aron, the Kaporet, the Kruvim, the fire, the Shekhinah. What was all? The Kaporet is the top of the Aron, right? You had the Kruvim. What was all these 5 things that you didn't have? So he says they were all Maaseh Elokim. Everything came from Hashem. All these things with Maaseh Elokim didn't come, and they didn't have it in Beit Sheni. And therefore he says the Aron, the Kaparot, and the Krubim were not Maaseh Elokim, but it was written here why, right? He says because Beit Sheni they didn't build an Aron. He says that was the entire purpose. What do you have in the Kodesh Kodeshim if you don't have, right, the Aron? So he comes and he says all these things you didn't actually have it, right? Kol dvarim shel Maaseh Elokim lo haya b'Beit Sheni. So he comes and he says, we don't understand the difference between the first Bet HaMikdash and the second Bet HaMikdash. But the Malbim actually comes and he says, the Safek is that when these 5 things were lacking, right, do we have a Hamamina that we actually had to continue fasting for Tisha B'Av and Asara B'Tevet and all these things? For sure, yes. Because these 5 things were already enough. You understand? Meaning, even when we had the second Bet HaMikdash, they would still be doing all these Taniyot, because in the second Bet HaMikdash, we didn't have all these 5 things that we had in the first Bet HaMikdash, which is something incredible. We thought that, listen, once you build the second Bet HaMikdash, that's it, you're not going to do Tisha B'Av again. But no, you would still do Tisha B'Av, even with the Bet HaMikdash here. Why? Because at the end of the day, we don't have the first Bet HaMikdash. And the first Bet HaMikdash, we had these 5 extra things, which was all about the Shekhinah and about the providence of Hashem that's on us. You still have to fast. You have the Bet HaMikdash here. You still have to fast. Why? You're missing 5 ingredients. And those 5 things which are missing are the most important. Something incredible. Yeah? Now he comes and he says as follows. Yeah, we know that when we're talking about the entire concept of the Shekhinah, yeah, this is what we're talking about, right? About the Urim V'Tumim. And therefore, the Chavetz Chaim says something very, very important. And he says, by Nebuchadnezzar, he actually had the zechut to be king over the entire world for 3 generations, Shlosha Dorot, 70 years. It was Moshe B'Kippah. Why? Because he went and he did an action that he ran 3 steps for Kavod HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like Chizkiyahu, right? That's what he says, in order that he should first write the name of Hashem, and then, right, the other names of the kings and everything else. So the Chavetz Chaim came and he said, what does that mean, Shalem lesoneav al panav lavido? He says, Reshaim Poshei Yisrael, they are mekabel sachar ba'olam hazeh. Poshei Yisrael, they have mitzvot more than the 3 psiot. So it already has that he has a yortzeit of the father, and he comes and he says Kaddish in the Bet HaKnesset. That's already much more than the 3 steps that he's doing, that Nebuchadnezzar came and he did. So therefore he comes and he says, even if they come and they just fast on Kippur, what do they already receive? They receive Olam Hazeh, they receive the incredible. They'll come, they'll get a big mansion, an incredible car, but why? Because they get it in this world. They get the reward, but that's much more than what he even did of the 3 steps that he ran towards it. So he comes and he says now like this, says the Chavetz Chaim, a beautiful mashal. And he says like this, you should know everything which is written about Poshei Yisrael that they receive, right, in this world is only on the mitzvot which are done shelo lishma. But somebody that does a mitzvah lishma, it's so powerful. Lishma means without any interest, without any gains, without any personal benefit. He's doing it for one reason only, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If a person does a mitzvah lishma, he comes and he says, right, that's so high and it's so chashuv by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it makes so much nachat ruach, and it's such much good sense to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he didn't think about it himself and he's only doing it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, you can't pay him back in this world. It doesn't exist. And therefore, once in history, there was such a mitzvah, right, that they're going to, when was this? The 3 psiot of Nebuchadnezzar. That was the only time that he did it lishma, that he did it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he said that for such a rasha, I can't give him the reward in the next world. I have to give it to him in this world. And that's the kavanah, that he's going to give him 70 years, right? Malchut, he gave him kingdom for 70 years because of this. But that's because it was a goy that he went and he did it for 100% l'shem shamayim. Look at his reward. So he comes and he says, if Poshei Yisrael, on every single mitzvah that they do, if they do, they could come, they could get huge reward in this world. So imagine what it is, right? The difference between the dargot of lishma. Imagine the levels of when a person does something 100% lishma. So he comes and he says, that's what, right, the famous Rambam says. Rav Shach always used to love bringing down this Rambam. When it says, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give us a lot of merit. So what did he do? He gave us a lot of Torah mitzvot. So the Rambam says something incredible. Kartis knisa le'olam haba. You want a ticket to olam haba? You have to do 1 mitzvah lishma. 1 mitzvah, 100% pure, for only one reason only because of Hashem. That 1 mitzvah is your ticket to olam haba. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted lezakot et Yisrael, and therefore he gave us so many mitzvot. You know why he gave us so many mitzvot? Because if a person lives for a year, which is 365 days, and then you say kaful taryan mitzvot, it can't be that once in a lifetime you didn't do a mitzvah lishma. And because of that once in a lifetime that you came and you did it lishma, you're going to get olam haba. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted lezakot et Yisrael. He wanted to give us a special present. And that special present was that we do 1 mitzvah only for Hashem. And with that, that's our ticket to Olam Haba, which I think is an incredible concept. That we, in order for us to get our ticket to Olam Haba, and that's what we need with the Shekhinah and everything, what we do a mitzvah, 1 mitzvah lishma. We just continue doing it. And that's what we have to actually do.